All right, hey everyone, welcome to the Streamwise desktop assessment tutorial for Quebec. The process for Quebec differs from Vermont and New York, primarily in how parcel information is accessed and parcel size is determined. Basically, due to legal considerations, parcel information can't be integrated with the atlas, so we use a free parcel viewer. And we also have some different layers for assessment in Quebec. So, as usual, the first thing we want to do, go to Streamwise Champlain to the assessors page, scroll down till we launch the atlas. So we've got that atlas located here. One thing we're going to do over here on the instructions is right click and open up that free parcel viewer in another tab just so it's open. So we've got that there. And then on our phone over here, we've already got the Streamwise Atlas, our Streamwise Field Assessment app downloaded and ready to go. So we're going to click that and we'll go collect to start a new record. So now that we've got both of these things up, I'm going to minimize this. And our example property is up in Bedford, so we'll enter that in the search here. And this is our property right here, so we'll zoom in on that. Notice there are no parcel lines. Let's minimize this. Before we do, I'm just going to copy this again. And we'll enter that. So come over here to your app. Notice we do have all of those links here as well, but for property location, click this so we can enter that property. We'll enter that in there. So 87. And there we are. And we can switch the base map to make sure that we've got the right one here. Imagery hybrid's a good one to go with. Let's zoom in. And they match up. So here we are. That's great. So once we've determined this, hit the check mark to save it. And we've got our location saved. Assessment status will hit to be assessed. Remember, one of the first things we have to do is the basin. We come over here, we can see we've got a little label that says Missisquoi Basin, although if you click in the atlas, it'll say basin name Missisquoi Basin. Check that. And then I happen to know that this is the Pike River, or the Rivière au Brochet. So we've got that. And then we can actually start doing our desktop assessment atlas portion of things. One thing I want to do before I get too far into that is let's go over and pull up the parcel information so we know where that is. So we're going to use the free option here. Access that. Scroll down here. Say you agree. Click on the vis. You're on a desktop computer. And finally, it pulls this up eventually. And then we can enter that address. Perhaps it finds it quickly, perhaps it does not. We can switch to imagery to make this process a little bit easier. Okay, sometimes it takes quite a while for the imagery to load. We finally got that loaded. However, annoyingly enough, when you zoom in beyond this, the imagery disappears, making this website essentially not that useful for us. But we have some idea of parcel lines, so if we zoom back out, we can do some matching. See this big white roof here. We're this parcel here, so 1, 2 down from that big white roof. 1, 2 down. This is our parcel right here. So that's somewhat useful. So now that we've got this information pulled up, let's go back to the atlas. We have a sense of parcel lines. Notice this year we have a new reference layer for the buffer on streams and rivers. So this is a 50 meter or 50 foot or 15 meter buffer. And we're going to be able to turn that on and off. So go to your layer controls, toggle on and off this regional national data. That's where that buffer layer lives. And let's see what we have on the parcel. So if we zoom in a bit more, we can see that maybe there's some vegetation within that buffer. What is the average width? It's pretty tough to say, but we can get our measurement tool. We'll do a new measurement. We'll maybe go this far. It could be 15 meters. We'll do another one. Let's turn off that layer real quick. Again, pretty tough to tell from this imagery, but I could say that that's probably about as far as it goes. So it's somewhere between 10 and 15 meters. We'll put it at, let's call it 12 meters or 35 feet. The buffer canopy cover, again, from this imagery, fairly hard to tell what we're dealing with here, but I'm going to put it at somewhere around 50%, not looking super covered. Now, here's a tricky bit. We have to get to the parcel size, and so remember, we have our parcel here, right here, so there's two ways to do this. we can essentially try to interpret where the parcel lines are here using fence lines and driveways. So again, grab that measuring tool and quickly measure down what you think is the parcel line to the edge of the river. Come back up this way. That's approximately what we're dealing with. Let's switch that to acres. And we've got 0.17 acres. The other way to do this is to come back over here, keeping in mind that this is your parcel. If you go to here, Je souhaite mesurer une distance sur une ligne, click that, and we can start to click these points. You can see that that's 33, and that's 16. So we're around 500 square meters. That's about 0.12 acres once you've done the conversion. Either way, we are definitely smaller than 1 acre. So that's really all we need to know, is that sizing there. Now we can determine if there are structures within 50 feet of the river. So turn on that reference layer again, and we can look at this, and it does look like there are structures within that area. So we can say, yes, there are structures within 50 feet or 15 meters. And then we're going to use the measurement tool again. We're going to measure this whole buffer area. So what's the total acreage? So again, interpret that parcel line as best you can. Probably right about there. We'll switch this to acres. And we're at about 0.05 acres. So you can go and enter that over here in your app. Is there impervious cover? Yeah, it looks like there is. I'm going to turn this layer off a little bit just to see. I think this is impervious, and that's within that 15 meter buffer. So let's just measure that for the benefit of the doubt. Turn that into acres, 0.01. So not a lot, but some. And then developed pervious. There actually looks like there's quite a bit of developed pervious in there. Turn that layer back on just to see, and let's do a quick measurement. I'm going to call this whole area more or less developed pervious. Can't quite tell, but that'll get us closer. 0.02 acres. We click in buffer development percentage. That gives us a percentage, auto calculates, and then it actually chooses the answer for us. So it's over that 10% threshold. So now that we've got that stuff out of the way, we need to figure out the hydrologic soil group. So we can actually turn on this Quebec data. Remember to turn on the visibility of the whole thing. Let's turn on the hydrologic soils group layer. And then right there it pops up that this is hydrologic soil group B. We can also click that and it'll tell us which group it's in. Come over here, you can choose B. Let's turn off that hydrologic soil group layer. Let's turn on this zone inondable. And we have to zoom out a little bit for that to appear. See how it turns black like that. Now we can see it. We'll turn off this regional and national data just to make sure we're not missing anything. But it does not look like this is a mapped floodplain. It might be a floodplain, but it is not mapped. So we'll hit no. While we're out here, let's turn on this Canadian wetland inventory. And again, not seeing anything on our property, but if we zoom out, we can see that there are wetlands in proximity, but nothing on our property. So we'll hit no here. We do have an intermittent streams layer, so let's turn off this wetland data and the flood data. And then under regional and national data, we actually have this streams layer here, which is on. We'll turn on this buffer, and we'll turn off these rivers just to make sure that we're not missing any of these intermittent streams. And we can see actually right over here, this dashed line kind of looks like a ditch, but it's mapped as an intermittent stream. Not on our property, but that's an example of what it looks like on the map layer, that dashed line. So we're going to go back here and say no. We don't actually have good data for polluted or impaired waters that we can integrate with this map. We have been looking at something like that. If anyone has leads, please let us know. But we're just going to hit no over here. And one of the last things we can do with the desktop assessment process is we can turn on some layers over here for our property. So let's zoom in real quick. So remember, this is our property right here. Let's turn on the hydrologic soil groups. Turn that off just for reference, and we can hit this print map button. And then I'll actually spin for a minute and create a map as a PNG that we can use this little paperclip icon over here and upload to this record. So then you can have an integrated map for your reporting purposes, references. We can enter notes here. And then once you're done with this particular section, if you want to stop, counterintuitively hit the X. That'll give you the option to save the survey in drafts. Choose that. You can also continue or discard it. Save it in your drafts, and now it's going to appear in your drafts. Now notice it doesn't have a title yet. The title comes from background information, but if we want to edit this, simply click that. It'll take us back over here. We have to scroll down through, but then we can start entering some background information once we're through all of this. So again, this is a good thing to do in the desktop. So we're going to enter the background information here. The date auto-populates. I don't actually know the property owner's name, so we'll just enter Gilles Villeneuve, because why not? The address we can actually get from a geocoding service, so if we type enough of it in, eventually it will populate the address. We can enter other information such as phone number and email, ownership information, whether or not they're seasonal year-round, how long they've been there, and then importantly, permission to use the information in outreach materials. Gilles is a really private guy, so he's not going to agree to that, nor is he going to let us use photos. But if you do get permission, please do check the yes. That's super important for us. And then you can actually take photos here as well as gather information on what they value in their riparian area, what motivated them to participate in Streamwise, and also the interested neighbors is really important. So we can kind of figure that out and contact them if and when necessary. So once you're done, again, counterintuitively, hit the X, go save in drafts, and now notice that the record is populated with the name and the organization that assessed it. So, and again, you can go back into that record at any point and assess or edit the information. And then you can also go back to this and you can collect a new record whenever you need to. So that essentially wraps up the desktop assessment process for Quebec.